afternoon, everyone. The Transportation Committee reviews items of interest regarding all modes of transportation in the city of Oshkosh, including motor, transit, and bike and pedestrian. We are an advisory committee, and our favorable recommendations today will go before the Oshkosh Common Council as needed. The council can accept or reject any recommendation from this committee. If you don't agree with our decision, you can discuss the item with a council member. If the committee does not recommend an item to Common Council, a member may sponsor a new ordinance regarding this item. All ordinance items require 2 readings before the Common Council. The first reading will take place on Tuesday, November 28th at 6 p.m. And you will be allowed to comment on the item at that time, although the council will take no action. On Tuesday, December 12th at 6 p.m., the item will be on a second reading, at which time the council will take action. You will again be allowed to speak. For this afternoon's meeting, I will read each agenda item, at which time, if you'd like to speak, please step to the podium and give your name and address. I do ask that you keep your comments pertinent to the agenda item. The item will then come back to the committee for action and discussion as necessary. The committee has adopted a public participation policy which provides 15 minutes for public comment. Citizens must provide their name and address and speak on matters related to transportation issues within their authority. Comment should be addressed to the committee members and not to staff. Items on the agenda should be addressed at the time the item is read, not during the open period of public comment. So we have 2 agenda items today, which is Wagoo Avenue and Short Avenue. So if you have a comment about those, you wait until those are called. If you have a comment about anything other than that, that would be done at this time. You'd be limited to 3 minutes, and citizens may only provide comment 1 time unless permission is granted. Written comments sent to the Transportation Committee at Oshkosh, Wisconsin will be distributed to the committee members and become part of public record. So with that, roll call.
Armstrong?
Aye.
Erickson?
Here.
Merrick?
Here.
Lynch?
Here.
Martin?
Here.
Hartman?
Here. All right. Anyone wish to speak on an item not on the agenda today? Okay. With that, do I have a motion to approve the minutes from October 10th? Do I have a motion for that?
So moved.
So
Second.
moved from
Sean.
Sean and second from Lindsay?
Yep.
Okay. Any discussion? Okay. Call. Take the vote.
Armstrong?
Aye.
Erickson?
Aye.
Merrick?
Aye.
Lynch?
Aye.
Martin?
Aye.
Hartman?
Aye. Old business. I see no old business at this point. So with that, we move to new business. Review proposed road layout of Wagoo Avenue from North Main Street to Mill Street.
All right, so this is probably our larger reconstruction project for 2024. Justin Gierek is here who's our city engineer. What I wanted to do tonight was just to make you aware of the project and what is planned. There's no action to be taken on this item because no parking regulations are planned to be changed. And this road is not part of the city's bike and ped plan. Generally, if there was an ordinance change, then it would come to you for action. However, I did want to give this some light of day, make you aware of what's going on and what the plans are. There will be future opportunities for those residents to give input and have discussion with the Public Works Department as that project goes forward. Obviously, a lot of concerns are with assessments a lot of the time, which isn't part of our purview, but they'll have opportunities for that too during those public hearings. But for these purposes, what I wanted to do is just let Justin give an overview of the project, what's being planned, and kind of go from there.
Yeah, so I think Jim did a pretty good job in the agenda here, kind of describing what's happening, but ultimately, so Wagoo is getting reconstructed from North Main Street to Mill Street. The existing conditions, and I'll work from Main Street heading east. So the existing conditions on Wagoo from North Main Street till about State, widths varies, but roughly 36 feet. It does range up a little bit, which what it consists of is two 11-foot drive aisles or drive lanes and two 7-foot parking lanes. This stretch is being proposed a little bit wider to accommodate a little bit more traffic. So we got a 40-foot cross-sectional pave or plan for here instead of the existing 36/varying width, which would be two 12-foot drives, aisles, and two 8-foot parking lanes. One thing I'll note is the existing conditions, the 7-foot parking lane is a little bit substandard, so the 8-foot brings it into a standard parking width in that stretch. Moving east, State Street to Court Street. Again, varying widths, roughly at about a 36-foot. Again, the two 7-foot parking lanes and 11-foot drive aisle being proposed at the 40-foot, and two 12-foot drive aisles and two 8-foot parking aisles or parking bays.
I'll just note, and you can see that on here, and this is where, because there's businesses in that area, these hatch marks are actually designated parking stall areas.
Moving, continuing east from Court, basically the rest of the corridor proposed is the same. We're proposing a 30-foot road, two 11-foot travel lanes, one 8-foot parking lane. There's currently one parking lane on the north side of the street. We're proposing to keep it there as it is today. The existing conditions is approximately a 34. Again, there is some varying widths out there, but that is roughly a 14-foot drive aisle in the center, a 12-foot off the curb, and then a roughly 8-foot parking lane.
So of note, I think the important things to note are that there are no planned changes as far as parking. It'll still be a one-way road with parking allowed on the north side of the street for the part from the railroad tracks east, and then obviously, like we talked about, the part towards downtown where the businesses are, that will be parking on both sides of the road. So are there any questions on that?
All right. No questions? Okay. When will this ever come to us again, given there are no changes in parking?
The only thing that we haven't talked about is if there's any changes from corner intersections might have to change a little bit, just the exact footages to make sure we get that correct in code once we have the final street done. That would be the only thing that might come back that I could think of.
Yeah, no, it probably won't,
Okay.
because there's no parking changes planned or any additions.
Okay.
And that's how we've handled these traditionally, is that if major road reconstruction projects, I'll sometimes bring just an overview of them, but unless there's some changes or ordinances that need to be changed, then they generally don't come to the committee. Unless council asks it to, and that's possible too. If there's something comes up, council might ask you to look at it for some reason or another, but those would be the only circumstances, I would think.
Okay. All right. Given that, we'll move to our agenda item 2. Request for no parking on the south side of Short Avenue from Spruce to Walnut Street.
Yeah, okay, this is a citizen request, and I believe that's what most of, the citizens are here to speak on. You know, I got a call from one of the citizens that he's reported that, he and his neighbors are having ongoing issues with vehicles parking too close to their driveways, parking overnight which restricts the travel on the road, as well as parking on both sides of the road. The road is, I'll pull it up here. It is called Short Avenue, and it is a short avenue here. It's 26 feet wide, which in some cases is possible to support parking if there was low demand and it wasn't an issue. However, with vehicles being parked on both sides of the street, that only leaves 10 feet of space for two-way vehicle traffic, which obviously is not enough room. I did talk to the police department, They have begun patrolling and ticketing vehicles violating the overnight parking and driveway clearance regulations. However, there are many rentals in this area, so it's likely there's some higher turnover in the area. It seems like some of the campus rentals are getting a little further and further out and have kind of maybe gotten into this area. And another item to note is when parking is allowed on both sides of the street, you can purchase a permit for overnight parking. And then if you follow the opposite side regulations that the city has, so I believe that's what's happening, even though, you know, the police are taking care of the ones that are violating, some of them actually do have permits and they are allowed to park on both sides of the street currently because there are no parking restrictions here. So with that said, that's the background.
Okay, thank you. Opportunity for comment from citizens. Member, give us your name, address.
My name is Suzette Fagan, and I reside at 1260 Spruce Street, which my driveway is on Short Avenue. It's not on Spruce Street, so that's why. The current parking situation presents a lot of what I think to be safety concerns. It is difficult to get in and out of the driveway, particularly in winter after snow. The cars don't get moved, so then snow piles up around them, and then I've gotten stuck in the driveway just simply because the plow can't get through to do its job properly, because there's cars everywhere. If we're trying to back anything into the driveway, it presents a serious problem because you can't maneuver in and out of our driveway. For me, that's the main crux of the issue. If I was to need an ambulance, they would not be able to get into my driveway a lot of the time. I'm hoping I never need an ambulance, but if I do, I would like them to be able to get in the driveway. And that is what I have to say. Thank you.
So you support no parking on,
I support no parking on Short Avenue. It is a very short avenue. It lives
Okay.
up to its name.
okay. I'm just making sure, understood. Please.
Louise Kunzman, I live on the end of that street, the intersection of Spruce and Short, and I've been observing what's going on in that street too. Often at one time, there can be 6 cars parked between the sides. Very little clearance, as he mentioned. My concern would be that they have no clearance for their driveway aprons to maneuver their own cars, the residents that live there, and also the safety issue, as she pointed out, for emergency vehicles, for snow removal, for leaf removal, for garbage pickup. Very difficult for those drivers to have to navigate and weave in and out. And I'm curious as to how it's determined, the number of permits that are granted per a street area when that's only one block. I have about 3 cars that park from Spruce to Congress at any one time on the other side. Much longer area. So how is it determined that there's so many cars available and given permits for that short distance? That would be a question I have. That's it. I
Thank you.
support no parking at all on that street.
Okay, thank you.
My name's Molly Knight, and I live, and my address is on Short Avenue, and I've been there 20-plus years. In 2019, I had to have the ambulance and fire department come Christmas night for my mother. Had a hell of a time coming down that road. Winter, cars parked both sides, once again. We have a 3-wide driveway, and we have a hard time backing out because between our driveway and theirs, the college students park right along the end of their driveway down to the corner of Spruce, and that's right where we need to back out, and we don't have small vehicles, we got bigger vehicles. So, snow issue, I've got stuck, had to call into work. The plows can't get through, who do we call to come and replow when this happens? Because there's been times some college kids have not come for over 3 days. And the snow plow will come down, but can't do anything because a lot of times they can't even get through. They gotta back up and go around. So I don't think we should have any parking on Short Ave at all for emergency, for snowplow, for garbage, for leaf, for everything. It's just, the road is way too short. There's 3 driveways coming off. We got 3 wide, neighbors both got 2 wide. So there's no room at all. So I'm all for no parking whatsoever.
Thank you.
Sure, yeah. You can take a look.
My name's Alan Knight, and I'm at 1260 Short Ave. Some of them, they park, and they're 2 on each side of the road. It's very hard to get in. I don't think a fire truck would ever be able to get through there. And then in the wintertime, if the plow comes through, they'll go around them, and then if they come and move their vehicle, they park right on the opposite side. So now you have their vehicle and a pile of snow. So now you can't get in and around there. You know, leaf pickup is another issue. And some of them, that one vehicle was there almost the whole week, never moved. And then they say, well, call the police, and they come and they ticket them, and it just, and, you know, I don't know if they even pay, you know, if they even pay for your parking ticket, you know, it's, what is it, $10 or something? But, it's just, a couple years ago, it was like maybe 2, maybe 3 vehicles. Now there's 4, 5, 6 vehicles parked there. And any given night, you can drive down there and either one of them is on the opposite side or they don't have a parking permit. So, and I'm all for no parking on there. It's just, street isn't that wide. I don't think it's as wide as they said it was. You know, I don't think, it's just, there's not enough room for that many people on that little short of a road. So, alrighty, thanks.
Al, are we allowed to ask them questions?
Sure, sure.
Sure. So there's 2 pictures per day. Them are, okay. Nick Schrader, 1260 Spruce Street. There's 2 pictures per day in there. One from one angle, one from another. That was from August 6th to August 10th or something like that, right around that time frame. We called the cops. They don't show up sometimes. I went down, did my rounds through the city trying to see where we started with this, and it took 4 days before the first parking ticket was even given out. Well, that car sat there for over a month, one of the cars, without a parking permit, never moved for a whole month. It's out of control. And then they get their friends, they all carpool. So, you know, could be 5 cars parked there, but they get in one vehicle and they go on. I did measure the street from their approach to our approach. It is only 23 feet 11 inches. Doesn't sound like much, but you take that, narrow it 1.5 feet or a foot. It's a lot. So that's all I really have for it. I'm in favor of no parking.
I'm Caitlin Brewer. I live at 1259 Walnut Street, and our driveway is on Short Ave. Just like all of my neighbors have said, we face the same issues. I agree. A few years ago, it was fine with just a couple of cars being parked on Short Ave. There was never seemed to be too many problems. The snow, for us, the biggest issue is the snow removal. As they all said, a college kid won't move their vehicle for days on end, especially in the wintertime. Last year, there was a car stuck, I think, for well over a week. And then all the neighbors were helping this poor girl get her car unstuck because she was plowed in. We've just this week, and I don't have pictures or video, but I did take video with my phone. One morning I came out at 6 a.m. and there's currently a girl in a Chevy that parks directly behind our driveway, does not not seem to know which side of the street to ever park on. Doesn't move her car very often, so when we're backing out, her car's right there. In the same respect, we had a car a foot from both ends of our driveway, and another gentleman was parked right in front of our leaf pile. So as the city was trying to collect the leaves, they drove their tractor up onto the easement, rutted up our easement, and tried to get the leaves out. So it's, we try to maintain a very nice property, and, you know, we are looking out, want the city to be able to do their job with the leaf pickup, snow removal, etc. I'm in favor of no parking permits, but I hear that's not really necessarily an option, so I guess I'm in favor of no parking on Short Ave as well. Thank you.
I have a question. It appears that those are not rentals on Short.
No, we
And there's not many there's not many houses, so we're probably representing here the majority of the people that live either on Short or that have driveways on Short.
Yep, so my
So-
wife and I live right there in that house on the right, yep, right
So
there.
these are renters off of Walnut and Spruce, like college kid renters that are.
No, they're down in the campus.
Yeah,
They carpool to move their cars. So you'll see, all of a sudden, you'll see one vehicle pull up, they all get out, they all scatter for a minute, and this is like maybe once a week.
campus even has a vehicle that will come pick up the college kids now from their off-campus parking and take them back to campus. One night we were sitting outside and the van pulls up and all the college kids that have parked on the street all get in, and
So these aren't even neighboring cars that
they're not neighbors
rent.
at all, they're
Not tenants on either.
college
Spruce
kids.
or-
Okay, thank you.
And it,
Interesting.
and
Good question.
it's my understanding there's 6 permits sold and they can purchase 9 months. 4 of them are 9 months and then 2 go month to month. So at any time, there's always gonna be 4 vehicles plus 2 others to get additional permits to come in and out. And it's never consistent. There's always, the majority of the time, there's gonna be a vehicle on both sides of the street, which makes it hard for other cars to get through. The two-way traffic, you can't. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Kelly Harms, and I live at 1259 Walnut Street. My concern is backing stuff into the driveway. Kind of new with trailers. We have a camper, like a pop-up camper, and we also have a snowmobile. So when I'm trying to maneuver and back into the driveway, it's difficult. I'm just not as good as Nick, where I just zip back in. I'm backing in, and it's cockeyed, and I have to readjust. So it takes me a lot when cars are parked on the road. It's very difficult. I don't want to damage their vehicles. I also feel sorry for the college kids. If they're that far away and they're struggling to get there, to move their cars, they're getting ticketed. I remember being a college kid and barely, living on $10 a week for pot pies or whatnot. So, also the garbage pickup is a struggle. I see the garbage man where I'm moving Nick's or my garbage can before they get there because they can't get close enough to grab the garbage cans. I'm particular about my yard. They do park on the yard. We try to put stakes in, but then they rut it up. As you can see, I like a green, nice yard and represent Oshkosh well in this area. So I am for no parking on Short Street. One final thing, we do call in our vehicle, like when I pick up the camper, to park there before a weekend overnight. And sometimes it's a struggle to even have access to that easement area before we go camping with our vehicles because there's no room. And I've talked to the college kids and say, please, this Thursday I'm coming with my camper, calling it in. Can you please leave me room on this side so I can at least, park there. So, thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Any other comments from citizens? All right, back to the committee then. I must admit, I'm a bit confused why college students are using that area to park, because it's not that convenient to campus. And my based on what I've heard, it sounds like they park there and then they get picked up and driven to campus? Is that what I'm hearing? Okay.
I can maybe give some insight on that. So I'm on Spruce Street between Short and New York Avenue on the east side, the odd side of the houses. There's no parking between 6 a.m. and 6 p.m. On the other side, there are absolutely no signs to indicate parking restrictions. So when those permits are given out, they're limited, even though that area is closer to the campus from my house to New York, it's restricted as to when they can park. So it'd be very inconvenient for those college kids to constantly be keeping track of the 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. Sometimes they're getting up, at 6 p.m. To move their cars in a timely manner. So then the overflow for however the city determines parking permits based on streets available to the campus is probably why Short Street got a build up there, would be my guess.
Okay, thank you.
I can also speak from experience on that. Having been a student at UW at one point, I pretty much lived in the Arts and Communications building. And there have been days where it was very difficult to find a parking space that was reasonably close. And I remember having to park on Walnut a few times, not far from Short. So it's difficult to find some spots.
But if these students have parking permits, Jim, they've got to move back and forth each day, and they're not obviously not doing that because they're leaving their car for 4 or 5 days at a time.
Right.
So this is a little honey hole parking area for them to just leave their cars, is what it sounds like to me.
That's what it sounds like. I
And-
think, I propose no parking on the south side of the street. I think what that would do is, if there's parking only allowed on one side of the street, then they do not sell, permits, or, well, actually, they could buy a permit, but they wouldn't be able to park there because you couldn't follow the opposite side regulations. There has to be parking allowed on both sides of the street for you to use a permit on that street. And then, I don't know, I'm correct, right? So,
Is it possible to reach out to the university and discourage them from picking these students up there? That seems like an odd place to pick up.
But it's not just, I think what it is they have a house somewhere down
On New York Avenue.
on New York Street.
Gotcha,
Their,
right.
their parking permits, their addresses are closer to the campus, so they must not have parking at their rentals, because there's 6 kids living in a house, so they only have 2 parking stalls. And then
Or they have to pay for it.
the overflow has to go somewhere, and it
Sure.
comes to Short Street. I think that's where we get a lot of, there's 2 people in one resident, so they all pile in one vehicle. They go down there, move, when they do move them, and then they go back to the residence, or, I think it's not so much like them going to class, it's just them.
These are not commuter students coming in during the day and then leaving, yeah.
Okay, all right,
Off-campus with no off-campus, not enough off-campus parking.
okay. All right. I think we have an understanding of what the fundamental issue is. Jim, your solution seems to deal with the permit issue, so there wouldn't be people parking there at all who weren't going to be in that area for a short period of time.
But if they're leaving their cars there with a permit,
Right, but now they won't be able to.
but they're leaving them anyway, so they're supposed to move them back and forth from day to day, correct?
Yeah, I don't think removing parking from only one side is going to solve the issue.
No, I don't think so either.
well, the reason that might work is because, you're not supposed to park, if you have a permit and there's not parking allowed on both sides of the street, they don't sell permits for those streets. You're not supposed to park on those streets. So that's why I'm
They-
saying that
they
would
wouldn't
eliminate
get a
that
permit.
problem. They wouldn't be able to park on that street.
It would allow residents in the area, if they needed
Right,
some place that they could park.
And I think that would be, and the other reason I'm thinking that, and again, we could do both sides, however, then, when you have your camper and stuff, then the residents can't park on there either, so I think by restricting parking to one side of the street, then people couldn't buy permits for that street, therefore they shouldn't be there, You know, and if they were there, they can only be there temporarily and only on one side of the street, which would make traffic be able to flow as well. So I guess that's my recommendation, and then if, you know, if it still becomes an issue, obviously we could consider restricting the other side as well, but that would be step one, in my opinion.
And it would deal with the safety issue, which is, I guess, my biggest concern, being able for fire, ambulance to get on that street, and for people to be able to move cars in and out without danger. So, so with that, we really should have a motion on this so we can have a discussion, continue the discussion, so.
I would move that we change that Short Avenue to no parking on the south side of the street.
Okay.
That's what you're recommending, right?
Oh,
Jim?
that's already what it is.
That's what it is.
Yep, yep, so we don't have to change it.
So the motion is for item number 2, to no parking on the south side of Short Avenue, from Spruce to Walnut. Do we have a second on that?
Second.
Okay, Lindsay seconds. Now, further discussion.
I have maybe a bigger picture question for Jim. Have we done any kind of assessment to look at what the availability of parking is for the entire campus area? I mean,
I have not. I don't know if, are you aware of anything that the police have? And I don't even know, do you know how they determine how many permits are sold? I don't know that either off the top of my head.
No, it's just spacing in between the street and the number of, availability, setbacks from driveways and such, if that's how it's calculated.
Yeah, I know they did, I know the police did some type of calculation, but I don't remember what it was. It was a long time ago that I looked at that, but yeah, no, there's, as you all know, in any college area, parking's an issue, and there's not enough of it, no matter kind of what you do. So it's kind of trying to manage it the best you can. I do know, I mean, I know that I know there's at least one developer I talk to often that thinks we should have on-street paid parking in the campus area, but, and the university built the ramp, and they still have parking issues, although I think now it's more of an issue of, during the day, the students don't want to pay to park, and we have a similar issue at the high schools as well. There's, I know, like Oshkosh West, the parking lot's not full, and the streets are surrounded with vehicles parked on the road. That's because they obviously don't want to pay for parking. But yeah, the simple answer is no, we don't have anything like that.
I wasn't aware until today that there's actually a van that picks students up from that surprises me that they would pick them in a neighborhood like that. But there's a whole parking lot across the river.
Yeah,
if there's a van, they can be picked up there. Couldn't
Right.
they just as easy as they can be picked up on Short Street?
Yeah, I think how that works is they have I guess I wasn't aware of that either. I'm aware that they have a van that is like on demand for students to get transportation to and from wherever. I guess there's no restrictions on to or from where. I didn't realize they were doing that, but anyway, the university does have a van and does offer students rides. That's about the extent of what I know about it.
But one van for how many students is probably, it's got to be pretty important before you're going to even get the van. It's not going to be, I don't know.
Yeah, there's not a lot of, I won't get into the whole history of it, but basically they had Titan Transit, which was a bus that operated at night, and then they had a van at one point, I think, that was offered to, when they had the remote parking lot over on Witzel, that would shuttle students and staff back and forth to the remote parking lots, and that's how it kind of evolved. And then they got rid of the Titan Transit. Then they also, I believe, have replaced that van now with this, I can't remember exactly what they call it, but it's an on-demand type service where I believe at one point their student resource officers were running the van. And so if a student needed to go shopping or whatever, it's never been real popular. However, there are apparently students using it for various purposes, but that's, I think, what their current plan is.
Do you know if it's restricted to on-campus housing, or is it for commuters, or is it for off-campus?
I don't know. I don't even think they have any restrictions, honestly, but I don't know that for a fact.
Okay, so we have a motion on the floor that, and my understanding is what we're going to do, if we approve this, We'll see how this works. If it continues to be a problem, I mean, it solves the immediate problem of emergency vehicles. But if it continues to be a problem, we'll come back to this and do no parking on both sides.
Will this take place, I mean, if we approve this, is this something that signs will be put up soon?
Yes, yep, it would, like was explained earlier, it's an ordinance change that has to go to council for 2 readings. However, if you think it's important that it gets done before that, you can request that they waive the second reading, and I can ask them to do that, so.
And then how is the police department informed to make that change or do they need to know?
Yeah, so they would get a copy of the ordinance, obviously. I mean, like I said, they are doing what they can currently, but, obviously, they do what they can for parking complaints, and depends what's going on, I suppose.
Okay?
So it wouldn't take place until the second reading, which is like the end of whatever
It'd be
date you said.
December 12th.
Okay.
December 12th will be the reading. I'm sure you're not going to put the signs up until at least the next week, so.
So if you want to do it sooner, based on, whatever you approve, if you want to, you can request that, and I can request that council waive the second reading and prove it on the first reading, which,
November 28th.
yeah. I see Lindsay's shaking her head, so that, we could do that.
Doesn't seem unreasonable to do it in the first reading. I mean, it's a pretty simple, it's a pretty simple situation.
Yeah, and winter's coming, we never, we already have the leaf issue gone, hopefully, but then you got your snow plowing, you never know when anything's gonna happen, and
Yeah.
I don't know, that's a really narrow street, I can,
Yep. So with Lindsay being our council rep, and I think that if you wanted to do that, it'd probably get some support.
Seem reasonable?
Yep. So do we
Do we-
need an
do we have to-
addendum to the
Do we
motion?
have to addendum that? or-
Yeah,
No,
we-
I don't think you have to add that to them. I can do that.
Yeah.
Either Lindsay or I'll
Well-
take care of that, but.
Does anybody object to that approach of asking for only one reading? Okay, so I think we just leave the motion as it is. We vote on the motion. Jim carries the request, and Lindsay carries the request to the council. Okay? All right. Are we ready to vote? All right, call the roll, please.
Aye.
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 Aye. All right. Thank you for coming and offering your input. That's very helpful.
That was everybody that lived on Short Street. Pretty close.
Might have been. I'm gonna have to find that
All right.
street.
Yeah, I've never been
So
down it.
we have update on Wisconsin Street. I just wanted to comment, Jim, I attempted to drive on Wisconsin several times since their last meeting because of the contentiousness of it. And I do see that there's been the speed sign, that tells you how fast you're going is there. Does that record the speed of people when they first encounter that sign? Is that recorded so we know how fast people really are going on Wisconsin?
Yeah, so that is our police department's speed trailer, so it does record data. So
Okay.
when it's done, they'll download a report, and then I'll take a look at that. But yeah, it does record data. But, so I just wanted to follow up, well, first of all, it is on the agenda tonight for council direction to staff, because at least 1 or 2 members have been, spoke at the council last meeting at citizen statements, so, we'll see where council goes with that. But the concerns that I have with that are similar to what we just heard. If parking is allowed on both sides of the street, then your college kids can get permits and they can park. They can park overnight too. So I don't think a lot of people realize that. But anyway, so we'll see if council wants to take any action on that. If not, it'll probably, hopefully end tonight then, unless they want to sponsor an ordinance. But as far as the follow-up on what you had requested at the last meeting, there was a lot of concern about children crossing the street. We did install a crosswalk at that intersection, so going east to west on Congress across Wisconsin, and put the requisite signs up. And that was also the neighborhood association asked for that as well. So hopefully that helps with those students that are crossing there. We did order the LED flashing stop signs. Those aren't in yet, but they shouldn't be too much longer. And then we'll replace the regular stop signs there with the LED flashing ones, and hopefully that'll reduce or solve the issue of some of the motorists that were running that stop sign. So that's where we're at with Wisconsin Street.
Thank you for that. I appreciate that. I know that citizens were concerned about that. And I think I did have a conversation with you, and you reminded me that there was really never any data provided about why parking was needed on both sides of the street, if there was a shortage or whatever, and so that would have been a little stronger argument, I suspect.
Yeah, I've been driving down there a lot, and the most I've seen is maybe 3 cars parked on the west side of the
Yeah.
street. And it even with them on one, it narrows it up. But I do think, and the pastor for that church, he's called me and sent a couple emails as well that he's pretty concerned about it, because he said before we put the signs back up, when the street was reconstructed, before we had the signs up, there were quite a few cars parked there, and he was having issues. So yeah, we'll see if anyone in council wants to sponsor anything with that. But
Okay. Thank you.
let's see, the transit development planning process, we're just past halfway point. We had 3 stakeholder meetings, 2 more are planned. The next meeting will probably be in January, and they will have some recommendations to present, and we're moving along there. I think we've got past kind of I'll call it the more boring part, which is existing conditions and things like that. It's not real exciting. So now we'll get into the kind of the meat of it, where they make recommendations. The majority of our 23 parking lot and street reconstruction projects are complete. This year we resurfaced the 400 West parking lot and constructed a dumpster enclosure there. We mill and overlaid a few of the parks parking lots with some spot improvements, like the 24th Street Boat Launch, Tech Miller Park, this tennis courts at South Park. Those are the 3 that I can remember. And then, like I said, most of the street projects are starting to wrap up. And then Steve is here. I asked him to give us a quick update on our transit ridership.
All right, let's talk about buses. Our total system ridership year to date is up almost 8% over 2022. Our fixed route bus ridership is up 14.3% this year over last. Transit ridership on our ADA ambulatory and non-ambulatory programs, including access to jobs, is down 4.51%. Student passes, student ridership. So far this year, we've issued 848 passes to students. In measuring ridership and use of the program, it shows down 19.8%. However, fixed route ridership is up 14.3%. So I think a couple things that need to be noted in regards to that is last year we were kind of a mobile playhouse. A lot of extra ridership after school. With the new program, student IDs in place, we find that the rides to and from school are very well used. I just think some of the extracurricular ridership after school has gone down a bit, so I think that's a good thing overall. Comes to intercity transit, Go Connect versus Route 10 ridership this month versus last year's down 81%. We had 126 rides in the Go Connect program this year. Last year on Route 10 we had 688. So overall, if you take the first 4 months out of the equation, that's before Go Connect started. Year to date, we have 1,033 rides on Go Connect. Last year, excluding the first 4 months of the same period of time, we had 3,727 rides. So it's quite a bit year to date.
Yeah, and that's what Steve's talking about, is where the county did not want to fund the fixed route, Route 10 anymore, and we replaced that with the scheduled cab service that goes between Oshkosh and Neenah. We're averaging about, what, 5 rides a day, I think?
Yeah.
So it isn't real popular. I don't know where the county wants to go with that, but they have the information, so the ball's kind of in their court if they want to. The pilot goes through the end of March, and then they need to tell us if they want to continue that pilot or if what they want to do. So, any questions on transit ridership? If not, that's all I have.
All right.
What's the picture, the new sign downtown? You sharing that with us?
Oh, yeah, that is. That's the new, it's not a new sign, but the sign got wrapped and illuminated, so. I think
Okay.
That was actually, when we did the renovation at the current platform, one of our staff actually suggested, he's like, hey, the sign doesn't look really the best, so maybe we should do something with that. So we just got it lit up this week, so.
A little bit of Vegas to Oshkosh there.
Nice, nice.
Grand Prix next, right?
Yeah.
Anybody have future agenda items for the committee? All right, hearing none. Take a motion to adjourn.
So moved. Evelyn?
Second? Deb?
I always forget, do we have to vote on adjourning?
Armstrong,
Aye.
Erickson,
Aye.
Lynch,
Aye.
Martin,
Aye.
Hartman.
Aye.
And Marat, aye.
I kept waiting for my name. Where it was supposed to fall.
Thank you, everyone. Hope you have a good Thanksgiving.
Thank you.
Thank you.